Oh, wow.
Very good. Well, good afternoon, everybody. I know it's a Friday afternoon, at least for most of us with our time zone, but it's a real pleasure to welcome Gerd Aulinger on the call today. I had the pleasure to meet Gerd in person back in March of this year at the TWI and Kata conference in the US, put on by Lean Frontiers. And I think immediately you recognize a kindred spirit, somebody that has a real brilliance and a knack of taking some of these lean Toyota Kata concepts and turning it into something very useful and transformative, I would say. So I had the pleasure also to be part of an hour and a half or so workshop that Gerd led and did a little bit of dialogue back and forth, a case study example of what you'll learn throughout this presentation. And I walked away from that feeling like I had truly learned something novel and something that I could immediately put back into practice in my own day to day. So Gerd is originally from Buenos Aires, Argentina. We were just joking a little bit. Sounds like he's got a history of dancing and farming a little bit before he moved to Germany, but I'll let him tell that story. And so has a very storied background and a career working with some of the large corporations and organizations around the globe, and also co-authored that book, as you see there on the left side of your screen, with Mike Rother, who authored Toyota Kata. So this was a nice bridge. It brings in the people side. I'll let Garrett speak more to that. But I'm hopeful for today that you walk away again inspired, something practical immediately to begin applying. So Garrett, over to you. Thanks again for joining.
Hey, Ben, thank you so much for having me here. So I don't know how many people are participating here. I can see like, I don't know, maybe something like 20 or 30 or
Yeah, we'll
so.
have more coming. It's Friday afternoon after all,
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I don't know where you're from, and but if you want to show your faces, I will be happy. So some of the videos are turned off, but okay. Yes, welcome from my side, and again, thank you very much for yes, making some time for listening to a few ideas I would like to share. We met in Indianapolis. Ben, I think was it the only one time we met, or did we meet before? Also, I'm not sure, but we for sure had some good conversations there, and yeah, so this idea emerged of doing some workshops maybe together quite soon, and in order to yeah just get that started, we decided to make a short webinar. Or Ben, you invited me, and yeah, I'm happy to do this. So this presentation is based on other presentations I did before, and so I have put some slides together. It's a little bit of an experiment also, so please excuse first my English. I am not a born a native English speaker, so my I will try my best with my language, but that for one. And the other thing is the presentation is a little bit of an experiment, so I hope it is interesting for you and it makes sense to all of you. So as you can probably see, the title of the slide is Toyota Kata Culture, which is also the name of the book, which I had the big honor to write with Mike Rutter. Yeah, maybe something like 10, a little bit more years ago. So this is what I want to talk about today, maybe half to 1 hour. I don't know how long it will take. And the idea behind the book is how to expand kata. Mike wrote the original kata book, and then after the one after the other, some other kata books emerged. And I focused more on the idea of expanding kata to every corner, to every level, to every individual of the organization to make it uh, yeah, so in the ideal, in the final state, make it a management system. That's my intention. That's what I've been working on for many years now, which could eventually substitute a return on investment management system, which I will talk a little bit about, which we have today, mostly in the Western world, and which I think is obsolete. It's getting older and older. And so I've been working on some alternative inspired by Toyota, inspired by old teachings from Henry Ford, and so on. So I will be talking about that a little bit and how I've been trying to um, help companies develop these Toyota Kata culture, especially through what I call Kata coaching cascades, which is a trick. It's an idea that came up eventually. It just evolved out of a lot of experiments and implementation, kata trials. And yeah, I want to expand on that. So the idea here is to talk about how we can expand kata into every corner of our organization. So I'm talking about developing organizations, not just the individuals in them, but individuals coming together and improving as a group, as a team, as an organization again. And so that they are better learners and they become better innovators by learning and innovating collectively together. Uh, and this making sure that everybody is a coach and everybody has a coach, which is one of the Kata mottos. Yeah, that everybody should have a coach, a good teacher. You should all try to find good teachers for yourself, and you should strive to become a good teacher to the people you are supposed to lead. So the um, the idea here, or what I want to explain today, is I want to try to explain a little bit a fundamental problem we have in our organizations, what we need, why we need to improve our organization. So I want to start with a small example. This is a fictional example, but now suppose that you would have a company with 1,111 people working in it. Yeah, and obviously, if you have these many people, you would have some kind of hierarchical structure, as you can see here. And these people would be, in our example, working on 4 levels. So you would have at the top level a CEO, a president, somebody responsible for the company with 10 direct reports, who themselves would have at the next level 100 people. And at the bottom level, we would have, let's say, 1,000 people. So one of the things that we try to do with Kata is obviously become better problem solvers, and we want to develop in companies the ability to become better problem solving organizations. Why is this important? Well, if you do not have enough problem solving capacity, just to give you an example, suppose that you have 1,000 problems a day, but your capacity of solving problems is limited to 500. What would you do if you have more problems that you can solve? Well, you will necessarily be forced to prioritize. So you will say, these are the 500 top problems. I will attack these, and the other 500 I will ignore. So if you do that, these 500 problems that you are ignoring, unfortunately, they will not disappear. They will get accumulating, accumulating, accumulating. And what eventually happens in lots of companies I've been observing over years is that you get in a firefighting mode. The firefighting mode results very simply, in my opinion, from having more problems that the problem capacity of organization allows you to solve every day. So what do we need? So what do we try to do? What did we learn from Toyota? What does Toyota try to do? They have a big emphasis on problem solving and having a big problem solving organization. What we try to do is not to hope for problems to disappear. The only way to tackle these many problems is to develop the problem solving capacity. First, from 500 go up to 1,000, which would be very good to solve the problems every day that you get every day. And then after that, evolve the problem solving capacity beyond the problem solving demand that you have. So what happens if you have 1,000 problems per day and you could be solving, let's say, 2,000 problems per day? So all the problems that you get every day to which you have to react would get solved. And after half day is over, you still have the second half of the day with still 1,000 problems of solving capacity that you have no problems for anymore because you solve them all. And then one natural thing would happen if you don't have any more problems, you start looking for them. So instead of reacting for problems, you start solving problems proactively. So you search, you look for problems that you do not have yet. After solving the problems from the past and from the present, when you're done with them, you start working on the problems from the future, which is the necessity, which is necessary if you want to become innovative. Innovating means solving problems and developing products and doing things that nobody has done before. So you're thinking about the future and you're not reacting to the present and the past. So this is where I come back to this picture here. So now suppose in this organization where you have 1,111 people, um, my question would be, so how many problems should an organization like this one here be able to solve every day? So if you have 1,111 people, well, it depends. The first question is, how many problems can one person solve in one day? just what is an estimate of how many problems a person can solve in a day? And I mean, solve the problem forever, not attacking the symptoms, but attacking the root causes and eliminating the root causes so the problem is gone forever. And if I ask this question to a lot of seasoned managers, they say, well, really solving the problem so it's gone forever. It's like one or two or maybe three per day, but it's not many more. You cannot solve a lot of problems. You will not be solving dozens of problems every day. You can talk about a lot of problems every day, but solve them, it will be a handful. So just for the sake of making an example, let's suppose everybody could solve like 5 problems per day. Okay, but for some reason, in this company, the only person capable of solving problems is the guy at the very top. So he's a very smart guy, and that's the reason why he's at the top of the company. And because he's very smart, he still can only solve the most difficult problems, but it will only be 5 problems that he can solve every day. So this will probably be the top problems that you escalate to him, but that's not too much, not too many. So if you want to increase the problem capacity, obviously what you need to do is to activate the next level. So if I add a second level now, instead of solving 5, we would be able to solve 55 problems every day. So if I only have the upper level solving problems and the people below following instructions from what the boss is telling them to do, well, 55 is very, very little. It would still not be enough to solve hundreds or thousands of problems a day. So as you can probably notice already, what you want to do, and this is what we're trying to do with Kata all the time, is activate the problem-solving capacity at all levels because it grows um, geometrically the more you move to the lower levels. So the more people you get involved into this problem-solving capacity that you are developing in the company, the lower you go, the more you increase by orders of magnitude the capacity of problem solving in your company. So obviously, even if the people at the top are very, very smart, 55 problems per day will never be comparable to thousands, 5,000 or something problems every day if you can achieve that. So the idea behind Kata is solving problems by developing people. So we develop people so that they become better problem solvers. That's what we use Kata for, basically. So now suppose, just to give you an example, if you have problems in the organization um, and these problems and people cannot solve them. So what would be a realistic proportion of problems that you could escalate to the next level every time you get a problem? So now suppose that we're looking at the third level now, the 100 people at the third level, counting from top to bottom, obviously, the 100 people who have a capacity of 500 problems per day. And now suppose you split this capacity because these 100 people, they have their own problems. So they say, I will have to solve my own problems. And so I dedicate 250 of my problem solving capacity to my own problems and 250 problems per day as capacity I dedicate to solving the problems of my people. Okay. So if you at the third level, counting top to bottom, have the capacity to solve 250 problems per day, how much, how many of the, let's say, 5,000 problems per day will you be able to escalate all the time to the next level? So if you make the calculation in this example, you will notice that in a structure like this, you will never be able to escalate more than, I don't know, something like 5% of all problems to the next higher level. You are never able in an organization, if you want to be really quick and really good innovators, to escalate all the problems to the next higher level. That will never work. So if 5% of the problems, to say a number, can be escalated, this obviously means that 95%, which is the biggest amount of the problems emerging, need to be solved at the same level where they emerge. You cannot escalate everything to the next higher level. So that's a thing that we have to somehow solve, and that's the reason why we started developing what we uh, again call uh, Kata coaching cascades. And the idea behind that is to do these problem solving, this organize this problems solving system as a system to organize this. And this is where Kata came in. This was obviously a very, very interesting discovery 15 years ago or something when I had the honor to start working with Mike on Kata. Kata hadn't even gotten a name back then, and we were working on this and doing some experiments. And it was very, very interesting to see, well, this could be routines at the core of a management system. It was very quick a realization that kata are not tools. Tools are specific to problems. If you have a hammer, every problem is a nail. Is not what the way we should think about kata. Kata are more than that. They are timeless, solution neutral routines that everybody can practice every day to become better problem solvers, better learners, better scientists every single day. So when thinking about this, I was reflecting with Mike a lot and reading his book. And then somewhere in his book, Mike mentions that I think it's page 62, that Kata is competing, in fact, with the management system we have been using in the Western world for maybe 90 or 100 years now, which was introduced in the 2030s by a person called Alfred Sloan, who introduced a management system that we call the return on investment management systems. He introduced it at General Motors. General Motors surpassed Ford, the Ford Motor Company, in the 30s. And well, it became the benchmark and the model to copy for the Western world. So it's this return on investment management system is basically the management system we use still today. I think it is outdated. I think it's counterproductive in many, many ways. And I think it should be, substituted or at least evolve into what I call kata management system. I think kata should be seen as routines at the core of a management system. So that's what I've been working on and what Mike and I try to describe a little bit more in the Orange book we wrote together. So just for you to see a little bit more what motivated me to think about this. This is, by the way, Alfred Sloan. There are lots of videos you can find on YouTube about him, and he's from the videos, from what I listen, he's quite a smart guy, obviously, and his management system, well, it was very, very good for General Motors many years. It helped General Motors surpass of the Ford Motor Company and become the benchmark. So it wasn't totally unsuccessful, at least in the first decades, when General Motors surpassed again the Ford Motor Company. And if you look closer at the management system, it was for me very funny, I must always almost say, to discover that what Alfred Sloan did apparently was to train their people on kata. He never used the word kata, and nobody in the kata community would consider these routines that he taught as what we call kata, but they are basically routines that you can practice so that they become habits every single day. So at the core of the return investment management systems, we discovered that there are basically two routines. And the first of these two routines, everybody of you, all of you should know. The first one is a decision-making routine, which is obviously based on the return investment formula. So the cost benefit analysis is a shared ritualized decision-making routine, which we practice every day and we coach every day. So you very probably have heard the questions, yeah, in order to keep this formula alive and teach this formula to the companies, we usually ask, well, how much will this investment cost? What will be the benefit of doing this? And when do you expect it to pay off? This is a routine, a kata, basically, that we have been practicing a lot in the last about 90 years. We would never call this kata, but it's a routine, it's a ritual. It has been ritualized to a point that we don't even notice anymore that this is not the only way. We don't realize it anymore. When something becomes a habit, it becomes so natural that you don't notice anymore. That's the interesting thing that happens. And there's a second routine that you probably have experienced too. After making the investment. If you decide, yes, we will go with that improvement, with that activity, with that project, because we think it pays off, then there comes a second routine. And the second routine is keeping action item lists and controlling the implementation of the measures, the actions, the projects that we are intending to implement. And this we do again by coaching with coaching questions that you must have heard, I believe, somewhere. So, who is doing what until when? And as you check the milestones or the progress, you probably again and again are asking each other, so what is the current status of this and that action item or this project that we are working on? Yeah. So this is a routine um, or a set of routines that are at the core of more complex management systems on which everything else is based on. And what is very interesting about this is that Alfred Sloan, he had a very, very different mindset, apparently, from what we know or you can probably see if you read his books that Henry Ford was convinced from, and what we know Toyota is convinced about how a company should be run. Alfred Sloan apparently once said, as leader of General Motors, which I think it's quite curious, he said, "We are not in the business of making cars. We are in the business of making money." Yeah, so cars are only a means to make money. But the purpose, in fact, is making profits, making money. So the highest priority, and that's something that we believe that Alfred Sloan introduced big style in the Western world, is the purpose of companies is to make money. And this is one possible purpose of a company. I learned it's not the only one. One person who explains this very patiently is the good old Henry Ford. If you read his books, I love this today. The other books, if you haven't read them, please do it. I think they are amazing. The examples are obviously a little bit outdated, but the ideas behind them are amazing and absolutely timeless. And Henry Ford, somewhere in his books, he says, well, it's impossible not to earn lots of money if you do a good job. If you work hard and you do a good job and you give a good service to your customers will honor this. So he was very, very convinced that you have to put customers first, not profits. And he made a very, very clear distinction between these two fundamental reasons or motives to create and run a business. So he made a very clear differentiation between the profit motive and the service motive. The profit motive, he said, is well, the purpose is to make profits. Obviously, you need customers, but if profit is the highest priority, customers will become the second one. The service motive is different, is apparently opposite. The idea is to give the best possible service or create the best possible products because some necessity merges, because you yourself have a necessity, you recognize a necessity, and you want to give the best possible service. And out of this, because the service is so good, you get a recognition in a financial way. So Henry Ford said, you always have to focus on the service motive. And if the service is really good, you just don't worry about money paradoxically, because if you are focusing on the good products and the good processes and services, the customers will honor it and profits and money will take care of itself. So this contradicts the mindset of many, many, many managers today, I believe, who are more tending more to the profit motive than in the buckle days than Henry Ford did. But now, if we look many, many, many decades later, if you look at the numbers, you can very easily see that this may probably be right what Henry Ford said. So out of these two models, the interesting thing is that two very different ways of running, of thinking, of acting emerge in organizations. So if you follow the profit-only model or the scientific thinking, service providing model of Henry Ford, the organizations will behave in different ways. So if profits are the goal, even more if short-term profits and the maximization thereof is the main goal, then you will always find in the end that the organization's leaders, they will behave in a certain way. They will try to execute judged by fixed scorecards maybe. And what they will try to do is always seek for certainty because they want to maximize profits. They want to reduce risks. So they will seek for certainty, mostly via transactional projects with a very, very clear return on investment beforehand. And they will always prefer to choose between existing options rather than developing new ways of providing a new service because you're not trying to improve the service, you are trying to maximize the profit. So what is giving the best profit? It might be just a bread and butter business rather more than innovation might be. So the result of this will be that top level executives will drive action item lists and plans to reach those financial targets. Yeah. When some deviations emerge, obviously you will have some feedback, but this will be mostly quantitative feedback. Yeah. If you run the scientific thinking model of Henry Ford, the purpose is to achieve strategic challenges, yeah, with the purpose of serving customers, serving teams, and in the best of cases, society as a whole. And as Henry Ford postulates, by default, if you do this right, customers, teams, and society will honor this with profitability. So the role of organizations and leaders change. Now the leaders, they become coaches because if you want to provide the best possible service, you will have to learn how to do things better all the time. You will need a lot of feedback for this. And you will obviously, in order to explore new ways of providing better service, you will have to accept uncertainty, become more friendly to experiments, to testing new ways of doing things. And in the end, you will become more capable of developing new solutions and become more innovative in the long run. Yeah. In order to do this, if you have big teams, obviously you will have to break down these goals, cascade them, and put them in place at all levels, and have all the individuals in the team striving together to achieve these challenging targets that you want to achieve for the customer, for the bigger good. So obviously here also you will have feedback, but the feedback will not be only related to what you are getting, but also it will be also qualitative regarding how you are getting there. So you're learning a lot about the processes and how to better achieve the outputs that you want to achieve. Yeah. So if you look at the idea in the long run, which of the two systems panned out better, I think it's very good to see. General Motors, in fact, I think they filed for Chapter 11 a few times now, and I think that they are not as profitable as many other companies. The Ford Motor Company never went broke, by the way. There's only one company in the US out of the traditional car companies that never went broke in the US. It's the Ford Motor Company because Henry Ford made so much money back in the days that they still have enough money and they're still managing a lot of assets that seem to make this company more resilient to whatever the market might be doing, yeah, which is not the case with all other companies that the car companies in the US, yeah, the other big companies. And then obviously you can see the Japanese and the Asians, and which adopted the Ford service motive. Yeah, if you listen to what apparently Taiichi Ono, the father of with the Toyota family of the Toyota production system says, he somewhere in his books he says, or somewhere he wrote that if Henry Ford apparently would have been alive today, in his opinion, the Ford Motor Company would have been headed and would have evolved in the same system as Toyota did. So Toyota also follows the service motive and not the profit motive, which curiously makes Toyota the most profitable car company. Again, so we see this is really working out as Henry Ford predicted. So if you really wanted to change the management system, which is what we are trying to do, or what I am trying to do with a few companies now, and switch from the profit only model to a more scientific thinking model for managing the company. So how could you do this? How can we shift our business model, especially if you have a lot of managers, top managers that are very return on investment driven? Yeah, changing habits, changing culture in organization is difficult, and that's especially the case if they are driven by short-term return investment profit thinking. Yeah, so how can we do this? This is again what we try to describe in the book. So if you're curious, if you're interested, if you haven't done yet, let me invite you to give it a look. So we have explained a little bit in the book how we think this can be done, um, um, among other with what again I call Kata coaching cascades. Yeah. So what is what we're trying to do? There is no doubt. Don't get me wrong. Every company needs to have good results. If you don't make profits, you disappear. I'm not telling you that you should not make money. I'm absolutely for making money, much more money than maybe you're doing now, but by doing the right things right. So if you want to have good results, you always will have to focus on the processes. The processes are what are bringing the results that you want. Profits, output, quality is all the result of processes. So good results will always emerge out of good processes. But good processes do not appear by magic. Somebody has to build them, has to develop them. So processes will never be better than the people that build and design those processes. So if you want to have good processes, you need good people that are capable and intrinsically motivated to create and evolve and develop those processes. But again, good people don't fall from the skies. If you really want to have good people, you will really need to have very good leadership and very good coaching to develop these people. So if you want to have good results, we really believe, as Toyota does and explains in almost any situation they can, if you want to have good results, you will have to work on your leadership and how your leaders develop their people. So there are mainly two ways of managing a company. I think uh, you can do the short-term result-focused management system, or you can do the long-term sustainable way of improving your people and your leadership. So this is where Kata comes in. If you want to have good people, this is where we use the improvement Kata. I will say a little bit more about this routine in a few seconds. And if you want to improve your leaders and your coaches, what you use there, you practice the coaching Kata. This is what we do here. This is what we intend to do here. Substitute the return investment routines by this improvement Kata and coaching Kata routines. So the if you are more of the short-term focus manager, you will probably focus a lot on results and processes and quick results and quick processes. But if you are more interested in long-term sustainable good results, well, you will have to focus on your people and again on your leadership, which is an investment that you have to do. And a lot of people, because it takes some time, they decide or prefer not to do this because they think it takes too long, or maybe I'm not in the company anymore by the time this gets to work. So this is a problem, a fundamental problem that we found many, many times. I've been working with lots of companies, and I had some discussions with a lot of big companies. I remember one of these discussions with BMW, for example. I've been working with Kata with BMW for many, many, many years now, and BMW is a huge company. It's 120,000 people, I believe. And we were discussing with some top managers there how would culture change work and how much time would it take. And we agreed that if it takes 10 years, it will take a lot of patience that we might not have. So is there any way we can um, increase the speed with which the organization can get to a tipping point where this cultural change starts growing organically? And so what we find out is that if we practice kata collectively, we can get to a point that this really starts growing, and it really starts growing organically in a very natural way. So the idea is to have people practice collectively and to develop not just habits but developing the culture so that we get past the tipping point where it grows organically, where a chain reaction starts moving into the organization, into every corner, and make this as quick as possible. So the question was always, where is this tipping point? Is there a way to make to introduce kata into an organization so that it grows organically and it starts growing naturally and much faster, much quicker? And we believe that you can do it within weeks, without months now. Okay, the obviously changing culture takes years, if not decades, but the tipping point where it starts rolling in the right direction, we believe this can be reached much quicker. Yeah. So I was thinking about this problem, how to solve it, and how can I create a minimum viable kata practice. I was looking at minimum viable products, and so looking at this idea of minimum viable yeah, products and different things. I stumbled over the idea of minimum viable cells. There is some people researching origins of life. There is people researching origins of life on our planet, and I found it curious. I just stumbled over it, and nobody knows for sure how life started on our planet, but most people agree that it must have started somehow with some minimum viable cell that was capable of doing a few things. So it had some DNA. It must have been able to doing mitosis, so making copies of itself, so that it could grow and expand. So the idea of the minimum viable cell, I thought this was interesting. So how does organic growth work in nature? Can we apply this to kata? So what would be the minimum viable kata practice? And out of experience, I found out that those projects or those cut activities that really work in the long term, where companies really start doing it seriously and where you really see results and where it becomes a natural way of doing it, they tick some squares that I think they need to be in place. So one very important thing out of six that I consider are very important is that you really want to have top managers practicing kata. It is not enough to have top managers saying, yes, I think it is great, you should do it, I will support you. But without saying it, I will not do it myself. People are always looking up and they always want to look at the boss. If the boss is the boss and for some reason he's there, he's successful, he's come to this position because he has been doing the right things. So what he is doing counts much more than what he is saying. So if you want to have Kata to really grow, you as a top manager, if you have one, you will have to practice first and start by teaching and leading by example. I think this is a very fundamental thing that we need to have. The second thing is if you want to have Kata and the coaching and the learnings routine behind it to become a natural habit, you will have to practice it daily. We are habit animals, and most of our customs, most of our habits are linked to our daily rhythm, getting up and going to bed every day. Everything is following this 24-hour sun um, rhythm. And so a very natural thing for us is to learn things easier if we do them in a daily matter, in the daily way. So if you practice coaching like twice per week, it means that 5 days per week you will not be practicing. So the rule is that you're not practicing, and the exception is that you practice. So it will not become a habit until you really do it daily. A third thing that I learned, House, is that if you are practicing kata in an organization and most people are not doing it, you will be something like the black sheep in the herd, and you will feel kind of strange. It's much easier to do something with others, do it together. You don't want to be different than the others. So it's very important if you introduce kata to, in my opinion, use herd instincts, have groups practicing together. Obviously, it's much more fun, but you don't feel like you are. The only one doing it. Everybody is doing something different, and everybody's looking at you and saying, "What are you doing? Why are you doing it that way?" So you want to have the herd instinct in place and use these herd instincts as good as you can. And the best trick, I think, is where people tend to flock in herds. If you give them, in a natural way, they flock in herds, is if you give them one shared challenge, one shared problem that they need to solve, and they can only solve together. And this tends to bring people together. This is something that happens very natural. For example, if you have a common enemy or something like that, which is not always necessary for um, of course, but that sometimes helps. So having one shared target condition is something very important. Then obviously you want to have very fast communication, feedbacks, and sharing of what is being learned. This is very important. And obviously, if people are going to put some effort in. They always want to have fun, and not also the results must be celebrated, and you want to have obviously joy. Everybody works better if you have fun doing what you are doing. And last but not least, again, I think everybody should be a coach, and everybody should have it, or most people should try to be a coach, and everybody should have a coach. So if you put all these 6 ideas together, what we found out is that it's very helpful not to coach or practice kata individually, but as soon as possible, again, to transition into developing culture, not just habits, but culture, which is the habit of the group, and practicing collectively in what we again call kata coaching cascades, where you have everybody coaching every day at all levels of the organization. And this is something that we found out that can be done within weeks, without very, very few months, and which is very, very helpful to really get kata working and running as a management system. Um, and yeah, so how do we do this? The improvement kata is based on 4 steps. Yeah, there are 3 planning steps and 1 executing step. So always, I cannot or will not go too deeply into this, but you always need to understand the direction first. Then you grasp the current condition. Then you establish the next target condition. And then you start executing by experimenting towards the target condition. And all of these 4 steps, they are done always with the assistance, with the support of a coach. The coach is using the coaching routine, the coaching kata, and the learner, the improver, is using the improvement kata, the improvement pattern, and this repeats at every level. Okay, so at every level of the organization, here on the right side in the picture, you see the coaches and the learners repeating this routine, which is fractal and can be copied and replicated everywhere in the company. So these 2 phases, they start first, obviously, with the planning, which in this case is the target deployment through all levels. From an overarching challenge, you go down. This is the first part of the improvement kata. This is the planning phase. The second one is the executing phase, where you experiment and communicate the learnings towards the target condition. Yeah. So we start always here with the planning phase. We do this with what we call the catchball. Toyota calls it the Nemawashi process, where you get a consensus, a common understanding of what the target should be and what everybody should work on. I will go really quick over this. A lot of discussions happen here, a lot of conversations and alignment, obviously, which ends up in a documentation. Here you can see that this is live in a company in Germany. This is a project management team preparing a big project here for yeah, doing cascaded coaching towards challenge. They are developing assembly lines for electric cars, and they have to yeah, work on 2 to 3 year long projects, and they're doing it with Kata. This is a very interesting example here. And what this ends up is with a mural, which on the left side visualizes who is going to coach whom on what. This is what you can see here on these murals that you see on the walls of what we call a war room. Toyota calls this Obeya. You probably know this. And so we close the target deployment with this mural here on the left side. There are a lot of other things that I have not the time to show now, but try to get a little bit more detail here so they can see it more or less what happens. And now with the targets deployed, you can start with the executing and communicating phase, which now happens bottom up. And we do again in what we call this war room. Here you see an example of how this works. Here you see a lot of people. This is an example of a company in Switzerland. They manage the company like this. And on the left side, you see the people, you see the targets, and then on the right side, you can see what they are working on every day, what the learnings are, and how the information is flowing bottom up to the highest level in case of being necessary. Always considering this 5% filtering. So 95% of the problems have to remain at the level where they emerge, and 5% need to flow to whoever is the most ideal or person to solve the problem. So this is what these walls look like. Here, what you see on the right side, those are tiny cards. These cards are summary cards where we summarize to communicate and explain what has been agreed upon in the coaching cycles. These summary cards, they are read. It takes about 1 minute to read a card. So if you have like, I don't know, 10 cards or 20 cards, you will something like 10 or 20 minutes to read them all. So everybody is informed about what everybody is doing. And yeah, and then you can cascade and discuss the problems that need to be escalated depending on who is the best problem solver for every single problem. Sometimes if problems cannot be solved at the corresponding level and you're escalating, we use the red cards, which you can see here on the right side. These are the part of the system where we do this with red cards, which implicate that we are going to escalate to the next higher level. Yeah. So at the very top, we have to filter. Obviously, at the very, very top, we have the one person who, in case of necessity, will make the final decisions, who also can only can answer or solve like 5 or maybe a few dozen, but not hundreds and thousands of problems. So here we build this filtering system for and communication system, because the coaching kata is not only very good for developing people, it's also very, very good for communicating information. And then we meet in what we call a war room. Yeah, again, what Toyota calls the Obeya. And this was a very, very interesting discovery. I heard many, many times about war rooms, obviously. You probably also did. And Toyota quite often talks about this Obeya room. I was not quite sure until we started putting them in place what happens here. And this is a very interesting thing. What we try to solve with war rooms is how to give quick feedback and how to really accelerate decision making in bureaucratic organizations where you have lots of people and communication tends to become slow and decision making becomes even slower. And the problem that we have in big organizations is um, what we call horizontal communication. That is mostly the problem in bigger organizations. And war rooms solve the problem or try to solve the problem of horizontal communication. So why is this a problem? So if you look at the typical organization with a lot of hierarchical levels, you will notice that many, many times you have a person here at the lower left side who has a problem, and you will have somebody in a complete different division in the company who is the person that could best possibly solve that problem. But he's in a different department. So if you want to have these problems solved, the person on the left side with the problem, he will have to escalate this through the chain of command to the next level and to the next level and to the next level until it gets to the right level for a decision to be made that this problem needs to be solved. And it will have to go down until it finds in some other department the person that can solve this problem. This sometimes tends to take way too long, sometimes weeks, months, maybe even years. This is what we typically call a very, very slow bureaucracy. And this is something that we try to accelerate. For example, you have probably seen by flattening organizations. That's the reason why we try to flatten organizations. The quickest way to communicate would obviously be horizontal, direct communications, problem, solution people. The people with the problem, the person with the solution would talk directly. The problem is this horizontal communication is not legal. You are not allowed to ask your colleague at the same level, bypassing your boss or your bosses and making design changes or anything without involving the hierarchy. So um, this is a reason why we are quite often very, very slow. So how could we keep accelerating this? Well, it would be much easier if I would be able to solve problems myself. If I can solve my problems myself, I don't need anybody else. I am now much quicker. What we try to do with Kata is enable everybody to be a problem solver so that they don't need anybody else. They can solve problems themselves. They become more autonomous, and all these interfaces and losses in interfaces, they get minimized to the point that from weeks and months to solve a problem, now you are in the range of maybe minutes and hours to solve a problem that otherwise would be taking too long to solve. So we always try to move to the right in this scheme you see here, but you will not always be able to have everybody skilled or trained to be able to solve every problem. So you always will have the situation that you will need somebody to solve a problem for somebody else across interfaces. So we need to have some way to legalize, to make horizontal communication really quick and fast and easy to do. And that's what we do in these war rooms here. That's what these war rooms are for. And here you see what these war rooms do. At the end of the coaching cascade, when all information's got to the top, we have these top 5 problems. And here you have the top managers addressing every day all the problem solvers and improvers and coaches in a session that takes something like 10 to 20 minutes, half an hour at the most in exceptional situations, but every day like something like 20 minutes where all escalated problems are addressed. And this is a very interesting thing that we learned. We have 4 options on the right side. So the best one, obviously, if you escalate a problem, the best thing you could always have is an answer, a decision made the same day. So we try to have a problem solved every day, the same day, which would be the option number 1 on the right white box that you can see. If the boss is not able to give an immediate answer, maybe he can at least give you specific instructions so that you can help him make a very timely decision. That would be option 2. Sometimes if these 2 don't work, the boss will have to take care of the problem himself. You always have to consider that he can only solve 5 problems per day. He's also a human person and cannot solve a big amount of problems. So he tries to delegate all the time, but sometimes it's not possible. So option 3 would be that the boss has to take the problem himself and take care himself of the problem. So what he does is give a specific date when he intends to give an answer. So you don't get an answer from your boss, but at least you get an answer when he will try to answer that question or give you a solution to the problem you have. And option 4 we found out is a spontaneous team building with the people that are in the room there to discuss the problem that escalated and make a decision as quick as possible. So we try to solve all the problems the same day as they emerge. This is what we're trying to do. So with Kata, we have, I think we succeeded in many situations, developing what we consider almost a learning organization capable of solving a lot of problems in the same day and achieving challenging targets. Um, yeah, in much faster way. We use this also for project management. I think we should wrap it a little bit up now, but just for you to know, we can use this very good for project management. Here you can see this. But basically my message, so if you're interested, what I want to tell you, I don't know if you have been practicing Kata, if you're interested in Kata, I really suggest that you get in contact with Ben, with maybe if you want to get in contact with me, we can talk and deepen further the idea of practicing Kata. But if you are practicing Kata already and you have had some success and some experience with Kata, the next evolution step, I think, would be that you start considering Kata as routines at the core of a management systems. And maybe you are interested in trying to get these Kata coaching cascades running one day in your company to see how powerful, how incredibly powerful they are. Yeah. And well, with that said, yeah, I would like to wrap it up. Time flew by, at least for me. I thought it would be a little bit faster. That's what you always learn with experiments. So if you have any questions, we have a few minutes left. I have more than 5 minutes left, but if you're interested, we can have some conversation if you want to. We can do that now if you want. So Ben or anybody else, do you have any conversation, any questions or any comments to make or anything that you would like to add? Maybe if you have some questions, I can go deeper into something.
I'm sure we'll have some questions, Gerd. I think everybody's taking a moment to reflect on it. Some very good overview. And I really appreciate the difference as you started with the profit versus service, because that is the origin of this type of thinking, scientific thinking.
Yes.
But feel free, team. I mean, any questions, please throw them through. And Anton's starting us off with a nice, timely question of, have we used AI or have you used AI, Gerd, to do Kata coaching?
Oh, we are experimenting a lot with AI, obviously. You can use AI, and I'm sure it will evolve a lot to train coaches. Obviously, I still think that we humans are still not obsolete. I think we have a few years at least that we will still need to engage people and their brains, and I think that we will have to, for some time, if we evolve into more and more artificial intelligence, I think that it will be some kind of merger. And I think artificial intelligence can be very useful to support learners who are learning, but I still don't think that artificial intelligence, at least not now, will substitute the coaches. That's what I think is not yet happening. It quite might happen very, very quick. Yeah. Yeah, we've been doing a lot of experiments on that. Yeah, can you have artificial intelligence coaching you, or could you coach an artificial intelligence, or can you have artificial intelligence basically running the organization eventually? Yeah, um, yeah, there are a lot of experiments there, but yeah, I am. Uh, yeah, I don't have much more to um, say on that, or to show now here. Yeah, we've been doing experiments, yes, on that. Yeah. Yeah,
Maybe,
virtual
Gerd,
coaches and
a follow-up question, sorry to interrupt. I think maybe a question on top of people's minds. When we see those paper-based walls and have the war room and
yeah,
everything kind of physically drawn out, what
yes,
is the flip side of that with the potential for virtual, or how have you found implementation of one or the other?
yeah, yeah. This is a thing. This is one thing that we are experimenting obviously a lot. So you probably know the I had yesterday, I think it was, a discussion. Should we not start immediately with electronic Kanban? The reason why Toyota started with paper Kanban is because they wanted you to feel and see information flowing and getting stuck. And with computer systems, you don't see it. And I have some the impression that screens, and I think I'm not the only one. Screens can bring people together, and screens can uh, push people apart. So it's a double-edged sword. So obviously, these coaching cascades, we can do them virtually. I have some managers that are responsible for example, lots of plants spread all over Europe, and they cannot be present every day at all plants in Spain and in Germany and in Poland, obviously. So they will go into some um, virtual war rooms and virtual coachings. But in my experience, at least at the beginning, it's very, very good to have an in-person trainings and in-person contact. And as long as the reality on which everything is based, the production world is still a physical world, we'll still have to go to the Gemba. Yeah, so yeah, it's evolving. We have some solutions for online cascaded coaching, and they work, but they are not what I start with. And the moment you get in one of these exercises, in this group coachings, in these war rooms, and you see how these war rooms work, and how quick and how dynamic and how nice this learning working together is, most people say, well, there's no substitute for this. You will never be able, at least not now, to make it as immersive as it is now. Yeah. So these war rooms, we have all the information around everybody, so the teams can see everything that's happening in the organization, and technology will get there eventually, I'm sure. Yeah. But at this moment, I'm still with starting with paper. So it's a start. It's just to start, and from there, companies evolve into their own versions of how they do their cascades. Yeah, different companies who are doing this.
Very
Yeah.
good. And Ari chimed in there. Anton is a nice follow-up on the AI, so thanks for that response, Ari. And then a question here from Dr. Ashwell. It's what percentage of profit could potentially be unlocked by switching from profit-based to service-based approach? And do you have any examples of that, Gerd? So that's maybe a heavy question, but what do you think? What is pragmatic?
Well, I think it's all the profits to non-profit at all. So if you just if it's it can start thinking about numbers, but I think in the long term, organizations that do not learn become obsolete and disappear. And then if you do not exist, we don't need to talk about profits. General Motors is not making profits. That's a very curious thing, or a very little profit in my what I know. So the company that started doing this return on investment management thinking, and the company that's been testing everything for profitability in 90 years, they went broke. And Toyota, who is not working this way, they do more target costing, and they work with this Kata. Toyota don't call it Kata; they just use it. Um, they are earning much more money than General Motors. Yeah, that's the reason why I showed the chart a few minutes ago. So Henry Ford made a lot of money, and I think he's one of the richest industrialists of all time still today. Without wanting to earn money, he saw money as a means to achieve something, not as the purpose itself. Yeah. And that's what the market honors in the long term. It contradicts the thinking of a majority now. After 90 years of return investment thinking, we are, I believe, caught in that paradigm. And I think if we switch to the service motive, we can earn much more money, really much more. That's my experience with the companies where we've been doing this. So many companies, the comments I get is, well, if we hadn't done this factory would be closed now, or we would, after applying Kata now with to this or that line, which was making losses, now it's become our most profitable segment. And now the other segments that are not doing Kata, they want to introduce Kata to their areas of work. And so there are a lot of examples. So I cannot tell you it's like 10% or 30%. It depends a lot on circumstances, but I am absolutely convinced that Kata is a very profitable way. In fact, the only long-term profitable way, in my opinion, to do things. Yeah. Yeah.
Nice. Another question from Devin is, what level of the Kata cascade do we have the most challenges that are encountered in terms of adoption?
What level of, I don't get
Yeah, if you look at the team member level, the value stream level, the executive level, I think when you have that cascade view of the board on the
yeah.
left-hand side, where do you
Well, when
see
I
most of the challenges?
Yeah, well, when I do the trainings, it takes me 10 days. It takes me 10 days to get your cascades running. It takes me 10 days. It's crazy. I've been working on this so long, and I try to, because return on investment managers, they are managers, they're so impatient. They will not give you too many years. So they want to see quick results. So I had to shorten. And eventually I need like 2 or 3 months. So these 10 days are spread over 2 months or something like that. And the hardest part is to get the top managers. If you get the top managers to practice, it's very easy to go down and have the people below them following their example. That's my experience. I don't have like one level which is more difficult to get working than the other. The moment we start practicing kata, it works the same at all levels. I cannot say this one or that level at the value stream. No, it's uh, I don't feel like there is a difference. Obviously, you need to have different trainings at the value stream level, at the business level, at the process level, but we have solved that already. I think that's not a big challenge anymore. Yeah.
Understood. I think we have time for maybe one or potentially two more
Okay.
questions, but Gerd, one follow-up for you in terms of practical next steps. So you've given a nice overview, very detailed overview, I would say. But if companies or individuals are wanting to learn more, how could they go about doing that? And then also with the way you do your workshops, I think give people a little bit of an idea of how you structure those and what those could look like.
Okay, yes. There are many things that we could do if you're interested. So with some in Germany, there are always some workshops that you could visit. I will be giving a 3-day workshop at Volkswagen, for example, by the end of September. A 3-day kata training where we just train kata and coaching and improvement kata. It will be obviously in German, and then in the end of December there is another one at Denmark. They produce cranes, so this is one possibility that you can book one of these courses. I think Ben we will eventually make 1 or 2 or 3 offers, I guess, somewhere else, probably outside of Germany. So in English, I would I'm very interested always in doing something like this, so we can do that as a course that you can book. And obviously, what I always try to do in the end is do this inside as in-house trainings in the company. So if you are interested in learning how Cascades works, my way to go, my recommendation is that we spend these 10 days with about 16 people, 12 to 16 people. And then after the 10 days, you have the cascades up and running. Yeah. And after you started one cascade, you see you never go back. It's like I don't know, 95% hit rate. The companies that get the cascades running, they don't stop. It's they just the only thing that happens is the speed of kata growing is higher or lower, but it doesn't fall back. It's amazing. So these cascades are the tipping point. It's solved.
Awesome.
It works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Having
So
experienced it firsthand, I believe it, Gerd. So hopefully
yeah.
we have people on the call that also want to experience it. But you've got your website there at the bottom of the slide as well, and then
Yes,
feel free to reference that.
verbesserungskata.de. Yes, if you want to go there, it's in German. On LinkedIn, I have always post a few things. You can contact me via LinkedIn via LinkedIn if you want, or yeah, or via Ben. Ben. So
Absolutely.
we can plan for different things. So I always have most activities obviously in Germany, but maybe quite soon we plan something in
Yeah.
Denmark, or we will see. Yes, depending
And
on
conveniently
on
for the
interest.
audience too, Gerd's wife, I got to meet her as well, lovely lady in Indianapolis, but she was born in South Africa, so
Yeah,
didn't spend a
yeah,
lot of time here. But we have a great reason for him to come down and visit. So
yeah.
please
So
help.
Ben wants me to come to Cape Town, and I guess eventually I will do that. Yes, I am very
We'll make
curious.
it
I
happen.
have to be there. Yeah, yeah.
Very good,
Okay.
Gerd. Well, thank you so much, and thank you all for joining again Friday afternoon. But hope to continue and look forward to hearing some of your learnings. But thank you, Gerd. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Ben, you too. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you very much. Thank you everybody for spending your time and listening. Thank you. Hope to see you soon.
Bye for now.